Thank you. It's great to be here.
All right, it's good to be a Bitcoin/Coinbase investor at this point. The stock's up 58% so far this year, hitting the highest levels this week that we've seen since that IPO date when it got above $420 a share on this one. Landon, we all know the high correlation between Coinbase and the price of Bitcoin. It's probably, and one of the highest correlations out there, an asset class versus a stock like this. But you guys still see this data improving on this one because everybody's talking about Bitcoin as it hit all-time highs earlier this week.
Yeah, you know what? This Coinbase might have a higher correlation than MicroStrategy, which is interesting. I mean, you look at what Bitcoin has done since April. It's gone from basically 75,000 to 117 or so. That's plus 56%. If you look at Coinbase from that same point, it was about $142. Now it's nearing 400. That's 178%. So it's gone up about 3 times as much as Bitcoin, which is really wild. Thinking that it's basically a proxy for Bitcoin because it's more than that. It's trading, it's investing, and the fees that they're getting it's pretty wild when you look at how much users are willing to pay. And I think it comes down to the perceived safety of it. I mean, if you look at the fact that they can take anywhere from up to 0.6% of a trade, which is really crazy. I mean, if you guys think back to the stock market days, how many years back do you have to go before you were taking 60 basis points off of a trade? That versus what it costs to send Bitcoin. I looked just before the show. It costs about $1.50 to send Bitcoin right now. So anybody that's trading any kind of volume is way overpaying on Coinbase, but because of the perceived security, perceived regulatory compliance issues, it's the safe way to do Bitcoin for many people. They are the leader. If you're just dipping your toes into Bitcoin, it is way easier to get in on Coinbase than it is to figure out how to buy it yourself and hold the keys and all that. That's intimidating. Coinbase is easy. So, they're doing a great job in that regard. I think there's a time limit on that those margins are going to continually to get squeezed until they get close to zero over time. But right now, make it rain because they are leading and they're doing great. Now, if you look at the usage of their website, the app, it's good, not great. I mean, it's very strong numbers. I think their monthly active users are up about 10% year over year. It was much higher if you go back a few months. Now, I'm interested to see what these numbers look like, a week, 2 weeks, a month from now if Bitcoin continues to make new highs, because that's what gets people interested, is that FOMO, right? That and their website visits, a very similar story, up year over year, but not as strong as you might think given what Bitcoin's doing. And I think it really goes back to who's buying right now. I've got a hunch that we're experiencing institutional FOMO right now, where companies are starting to get in. They understand the importance of holding Bitcoin on their balance sheet. I think that later we could see nation state FOMO, and that's when Bitcoin really, really runs and Coinbase gets a lot of attention. But I think right now, for the most part, and this is somewhat anecdotal, but also I see it on our data when we look through what people are saying, I think a lot of retail people feel like they've missed Bitcoin. They traded it way back in the day. Maybe they made a little bit, and they're waiting for it to come back down to buy again, and that opportunity's gone. So they kind of put it off of their radar. And I think there's a lot of retail that have kind of checked out of the Bitcoin trade. And until it, cracks 200,000 or 250, they're not going to really get interested again. So that's going to be interesting to see how much of Coinbase's business is institutional versus individual, because I know that it's moving in that direction right now. Also, when it comes to retail, one thing that I love that they're doing is the derivative play. So they are, they bought Deribit, which is, I think they paid almost $3 billion for. They control 75% of the crypto options out there. They're doing 800 billion in volume in Q1 in derivatives trading. So I think that is that's the way to get retail, because it's 8%, 10%. It's not that big of a deal if you're retail, but if you can trade futures on it or options and you can 10x your money, that's what gets retail traders excited. So I think that's where they're going to see a lot of their retail growth. So I do like that they're attacking that angle as well, because it just makes it a lot more exciting for that retail investor.
Landon, the subscription services, the subscription and services revenue. That's their golden goose. You made a point early in your presentation here that is exactly what I'm thinking. The transaction revenue, right? How they make a fair amount of money right now. Long term, that's going to go with the rest of the industry and work its way towards zero. They can't count on that revenue long term. So, and now the subscription revenue, it's slowing, and the correlations to crypto are clear, or even more, right? Their beta to crypto is incredible, but is the future okay? Is this a stock tradable or a buy here? Because those transaction revenues are going to start drilling down, and they're not going to go to zero, but they're going to go towards zero, Landon, just like the rest of the industry as it gets more and more mature. So then what, I guess, is what I'm saying, Landon.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think a big question is, how long is that going to take? And one thing that's really key about Coinbase is they have a huge moat around the safety and security and regulatory compliance perception. Anybody can start up a Bitcoin trading or a crypto trading company. You can build the software in a few months, I'm sure. But in order to get people on, they have to trust you with their money in this world that feels very unsafe, right? This is, if you're just getting into crypto, this is the new customer we're talking about. It's kind of scary. It's like, I don't know what this is. I can't hold it. It's not equity in a company. I'm not getting dividends. What is this thing? And so Coinbase offers the security and the safety angle. And I think it's going to be a while before people start to say, wait a minute, how much did I pay for that? And why am I paying $10 for that trade when I could have gone over here and paid $5? Like security and the safety is worth $5. It's worth that difference right now. So they've got to continue to play that, and then just expand on their institutional offerings, expand on the stablecoin stuff, the Genius Act coming up. I mean, there's a lot of good things, sort of in the hopper for them when it comes to institutional side, because I think that's really where they're going to make their money long term. I think that maybe the derivatives play can be a nice place to make fees on trading, but just buying the coins themselves, obviously that's going to zero. It's just a question of timeline. I think the timeline is longer than it was for stock trading companies, for brokers, because that was more of a commodity. I think that there's definitely safety play there. You trusted Schwab more than you trusted others, but the level of trust with Coinbase versus their competition is way higher, because they were so early and they were so on top of the regulatory compliance, while other companies like FTX and those were folding, right? So it's a different parallel. Coinbase has been the safety net for so many people, and I think that's going to carry them longer into this. But yes, the trading revenue is going to zero or basically zero at some point. I think it's going to be longer though than many people expect.
Landon, one of the charts that you have, that web visits on a 30-day moving average versus the stock price, I'm seeing some divergence on that one. That scares me a little bit, Landon. Even with the stock at these lofty levels, and Bitcoin can go to 150,000, right? We just don't know that. And the correlation, as I mentioned, pretty high between Coinbase and Bitcoin itself. But that chart right there scares me a little bit, Landon.
Yeah, it should. And you know what? When you look at this moves in the Coinbase price, you can basically substitute their price for Bitcoin, right? The chart looked very similar. So that last run up, Coinbase, got a big run up as well, and interest picked up. This is kind of showing that retail apathy that I was talking about, and I really think that it's a thing. Retail traders feel like they missed Bitcoin for a large part. There's a lot of the meme coins and all of that a couple of years ago. A lot of people traded that, had fun, lost some money, and now they're like, I don't know about crypto anymore, right? So I think that retail's somewhat checked out, and that's why I think the future, at least short term, for Coinbase has to be institutional, because right now Bitcoin's making all-time highs, and that line should be screaming to the upside if retail was interested, if retail is really missing out on all of this and wanting to get in on it. So I agree. I think that this shows a weakness in their retail side of their business. but their institutional side is still pretty strong. And you know what? They're the number 10 holder with companies when it comes to Bitcoin. They got 9,000 Bitcoin, far from number one at MicroStrategy's at 600,000 Bitcoin, but still, they hold a lot as well. And so obviously that's good for investors. But you've got a lot of tailwinds. I think politically, I think Trump being elected was huge for Coinbase. Tons of tailwinds on the crypto space for that. And you just don't know what the future holds. But right now, I think the key to investors to understand with Coinbase is I think that retail is largely checked out, and it's going to take a really strong move in Bitcoin very quickly to the upside to get retail to get back in, or some exciting stories on the derivative side, futures, options, whatever it may be. They've got to feel like they can make money quickly. Otherwise, it's the thing that they missed out on. They shouldn't have sold it at 60,000 or 80,000 or wherever they sold it, and now they're waiting for it to come back down.
Yeah, good luck with that one. At this point, it feels like, but it can happen. We know that. All right, great stuff as always, Landon. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
All right, that's Landon Swan, co-founder of LikeFolio, breaking down the Coinbase. Yeah, that last chart that they had where, the interest as far as they got a lot of retail as far as their data goes.